Marcus Ellis adjusted his tie in the polished brass mirror of Fletcher and Greenbank's marble-floored lobby, drawing in a deep breath before stepping toward the mahogany reception desk. He had spent the last 2 years pouring his heart, and what little savings he had, into EcoFusion, the clean energy startup he co-founded in a cramped co-working space downtown. Their patent-pending solar inverter technology promised to slash household energy costs by 40%. Now, with a prototype proven in pilot installations, Marcus needed one final push, a $500,000 growth loan to secure a small manufacturing facility and hire the technicians who could scale production from 10 units a month to 1,000. "Mr. Ellis, they're ready for you," the receptionist said, her voice polite but brisk. She tapped at her keyboard and directed Marcus through a pair of glass doors into Tortel's office, an expansive room dominated by a century-old oak desk and shelves of leather-bound ledgers. Bank manager Victor Rutledge, seated behind that desk, held Marcus's dossier in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. His salt and pepper hair was immaculately combed. His crisply tailored suit bore a pin of the bank's crest. "Good afternoon, Marcus," Rutledge began, offering a perfunctory smile. "Thank you for coming in." He set the dossier down and flipped it open like a judge about to deliver a verdict. "We've reviewed your application. 3 years of company filings, revenue projections, collateral estimates. I won't mince words. Your technology is impressive and your pilot clients report spectacular performance. But our policy requires 3 consecutive years of positive cash flow or substantial fixed asset collateral." He paused, eyes narrowing. "Unfortunately, you meet neither criterion." Marcus's chest tightened. He had anticipated they might raise questions about revenue. EcoFusion had posted $200,000 in income last year and broke even this quarter. But he'd underwritten that risk with personal guarantees and equipment leases. He pressed, voice steady but urgent. "Victor, I understand policy, but we have binding agreements with 2 regional utilities for 5,000 units this year, plus outstanding purchase orders worth $1.8 million. I can provide those contracts as de facto guarantees." Rutledge tapped his pen against the dossier. "Purchase orders aren't cash, they're promises. Our underwriters need tangible security, a facility mortgage or equipment liens. Without that, we simply can't underwrite this loan at the level you requested." He leaned back. "I'm sorry, Marcus. We'll have to decline." Marcus closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, then reopened them to meet Rutledge's gaze. "So," he said, swallowing hard, "my dreams hinge on your firm's definition of security." Rutledge's apology was courteous but final. "Perhaps once you've matured further, we can revisit. In the meantime, I encourage you to explore asset-based lenders or private equity." In that moment, as Marcus rose to gather his papers, the oak doors seemed to close on his future. He walked out under the bank's domed skylight, sunlight glancing off the polished floors, and felt the weight of every sleepless night, every late-night pitch session, and every dollar, his parents' retirement savings, his own credit cards, crystallized into a single truth. According to Fletcher and Green, his company was too risky to fund. Outside, the city pulsed with unaware commuters. Marcus watched a corporate limousine whisk past, its passengers oblivious to the rejection he carried like lead in his chest. Yet as he reached into his messenger bag to grip the prototype inverter, cold aluminum against his fingertips, a spark of defiance ignited. One day, he vowed, EcoFusion would stand so tall that the mahogany doors of every bank would swing wide, begging him for terms. Clutching the prototype under his arm, Marcus Ellis stepped into the afternoon's glare, determination setting his jaw. The bankers had said no, but EcoFusion's story was only beginning, and Marcus was far from done. Reeling from Fletcher and Green's rebuff, Marcus Ellis returned to EcoFusion's downtown co-working loft with a singular determination. If the banks wouldn't fund his vision, he would prove its worth himself. He immediately convened his 2 co-founders, electrical engineer Jana Patel and software architect Luis Morales, and outlined a lean, 2-pronged plan. First, they would stretch their remaining seed capital, just $60,000, into a bare-bones manufacturing line. Second, they would chase every non-dilutive grant and pilot contract they could find, no matter how modest. For the next 2 weeks, the trio burned the candle at both ends. By day, Marcus pounded the pavement. He cold emailed every regional economic development office and clean tech incubator within a 50-mile radius, begging for pitch slots. By night, Jana and Luis converted half their shared desk into a makeshift assembly bench, soldering inverter boards under a swinging lamp and 3D printing custom heat, sinks wherever they could scavenge filament. On Marcus's laptop, spreadsheets tracked every cent spent, 1.25 per resistor, 340 per capacitor. Vendor discounts negotiated down to the penny. Their first breakthrough came when the city's Office of Sustainability awarded EcoFusion a $25,000 micro grant to power its municipal solar shelter pilot. Marcus spent 3 sleepless nights rewriting the grant narrative, emphasizing EcoFusion's mission to deliver lower-cost clean energy to underserved neighborhoods. The award paid for raw materials and rented bench space at a local maker lab. Within 6 weeks, they had delivered and installed 10 prototype inverters on public shelters, each one monitored remotely for performance and reliability. Buoyed by that success, Marcus leveraged the pilot data to secure a second $50,000 innovation grant from the State Energy Commission. He used those funds to lease a 1,200 square foot workshop, complete with bench soldering stations and a borrowed hydraulic press, and hired 2 part-time technicians, both recent engineering graduates itching for real-world experience. Under his watchful eye, the team refined the inverter design, reducing component count by 15%, boosting thermal efficiency, and cutting assembly time from 3 hours to 90 minutes per unit. Meanwhile, EcoFusion's first commercial contract arrived unexpectedly through a connection Marcus made at a community solar summit. A local nonprofit, Greenlight Farms, needed 50 residential inverters for their new microgrid. They agreed to pay EcoFusion $150,000 upfront for delivery within 3 months. Marcus renegotiated supplier terms to secure bulk discounts on semiconductors, scheduled weekly build and test cycles, and personally oversaw each unit's quality check. When the final inverter shipped 2 days early, Greenlight Farms director Rosa Vega drove across town to present Marcus with a thumbs up and promises of referrals. By month 6, EcoFusion had generated $220,000 in revenue, enough to break even on rent and payroll, and boasted a modest 12% net margin. Marcus reinvested every surplus dollar into R&D, ordering custom injection molded enclosures to replace their prototype shells, and contracting a local HVAC firm to develop integrated cooling modules. He also expanded their sales outreach, securing pilot discussions with 3 regional utilities. What began as a desperate hustle had blossomed into a scalable operation. In 6 scrappy months, Marcus and his team had transformed rejection into traction: 2 government grants, a nonprofit contract, a lean workshop humming with activity, and a revenue stream that justified EcoFusion's promise. As he locked up the workshop late one evening, Marcus glanced at the row of assembled inverters, each one a testament to relentless grit, and whispered, "Just wait until they see what we do next." The banks had said no, but EcoFusion was already building the undeniable proof they needed. Just 18 months after that fateful loan denial, EcoFusion's modest workshop hummed with the kinetic energy of a company reborn. On a crisp autumn morning, Marcus Ellis arrived at the refurbished 50,000 square foot factory, once a vacant warehouse, to find a phalanx of robotic soldering stations, automated test benches, and neatly stacked pallets of sleek inverter units, stamped with the EcoFusion logo. Behind him, an assembly line of 50 technicians worked in synchronized precision. Jana Patel triaged quality control anomalies, while Luis Morales monitored live performance feeds on a bank of LCD displays. That afternoon, Marcus joined his board for a decisive Series B funding pitch via video conference. On the screen were the principals from Redwood Ventures, Aurora Capital, and Silicon Horizons, a who's who of clean tech investors. With poised confidence, he presented 6-month metrics: $1.2 million in monthly recurring revenue, a 430% year-over-year growth rate, and a growing pipeline of 15,000 pre-orders, representing $18 million in future sales. He concluded with a bold projection. With $25 million in growth capital, EcoFusion will capture 10% of the regional solar inverter market within 2 years, transforming underserved grids and generating 5 terawatt-hours of renewables annually. Moments later, Redwood's lead partner nodded. Marcus, we've seen thousands of pitches, but this level of traction and mission alignment is rare. We're in for the full $25 million. Aurora and Silicon Horizons immediately followed suit, closing the round in under an hour at a post-money valuation of $1.1 billion, officially crowning EcoFusion a unicorn. Marcus allowed himself a rare grin. The scrappy startup had arrived. Within days, EcoFusion leased an adjacent 20,000 square foot expansion bay, tripling manufacturing capacity. Marcus presided over a ribbon-cutting ceremony flanked by local officials. Mayor Alvarez lauded EcoFusion's role in creating 120 new manufacturing jobs, and by utility executives eager to integrate EcoFusion's smart grid software into their networks. A feature in cleantech today christened Marcus the visionary who democratized solar power, while Forbes listed him among its top 30 under 30 in energy. On the factory floor, the team celebrated with custom-branded t-shirts, unicorn status, unlocked. A toast in the break room overflowed into singing and high fives as technicians reveled in stock option grants that could change their lives. Marcus, Jana, and Luis stood together, soaking in the moment and already plotting the next milestone: global supply chain partnerships, a flagship R&D arm for next-generation battery integration, and pilot projects in emerging markets. That evening, Marcus returned home to dozens of congratulatory emails and LinkedIn requests, yet he found himself drawn back to the prototype inverter, still perched on his workbench, the very first unit he had assembled by hand. He ran his fingers across its anodized surface and whispered, "This is only the beginning." In that hum of celebration and ambition, EcoFusion's unicorn ascent revealed not just a valuation, but the power of perseverance and the promise of clean energy for millions to come. Just as EcoFusion's valuation broke the billion-dollar mark, Marcus Ellis received a surprising summons from Fletcher and Green Bank's downtown headquarters, the very institution that had once slammed its doors in his face. He arrived in EcoFusion's branded electric sedan, skirting past marble columns and polished brass railings, to find Victor Rutledge and the bank's new CEO seated at a gleaming conference table. Their smiles were polite, their posture deferential. "Marcus," Rutledge began, voice warm with contrived enthusiasm, "we've watched your progress with admiration. It's clear EcoFusion has outpaced our expectations, and frankly, our traditional lending model." He tapped a folder stamped "Confidential Acquisition Proposal" across the table. "We'd like to discuss strategic options for aligning our interests. Specifically, Fletcher & Green is prepared to acquire EcoFusion for $1.2 billion in cash and stock, ensuring your team has the capital to scale globally, while we integrate your clean energy solutions into our new green finance division." Marcus felt the familiar surge of irony. The bankers who once deemed his vision too risky now staked their reputation on owning it. He flipped through their glossy slides: market share forecasts, cross-selling synergies, executive headwinds. Fletcher & Green promised prestige, a seat on their executive committee, and a generous retention package. But as he studied the fine print, Marcus noted the controlling interest clause. Fletcher would own 75% of EcoFusion's equity and hold decisive voting rights over its board. Politely, Marcus set the folder aside. "Thank you for your confidence," he replied, "but EcoFusion's mission isn't to become a division in a bank. It's to transform energy access worldwide, and we can't do that from under your umbrella." Rutledge's smile flickered, replaced by the polite mask of a banker whose table just learned they'd been snubbed. "I see," he said. "Then perhaps we should explore a financing partnership." East Coast credit lines tied to our green bond offerings. As he left the bank, Marcus felt the weight of their proposal and the magnitude of the choice before him. Fletcher and Green had misjudged him once. He would not allow them to misdirect EcoFusion's destiny again. Back in his office that evening, he convened Jana and Luis for an urgent strategy session. Together, they reviewed Fletcher's offer line by line and began drafting a counterproposal that would flip the script entirely, ensuring that EcoFusion would not be acquired, but instead would acquire a new arm of green finance under its own banner. The next chapter in their story had begun. Within days of Fletcher and Green's acquisition overture, Marcus Ellis found himself fielding a barrage of boardroom phone calls, all carrying the subtext, "You really should sell." On a rainy Tuesday morning, he convened EcoFusion's 5-person board in the gleaming glass conference room overlooking the factory floor. The table was strewn with 2 competing proposals. Fletcher's $1.2 billion cash and stock offer insisting on 75% ownership, and Marcus's counteroffer to acquire Fletcher's green finance division under EcoFusion's terms. Board members exchanged tense glances as Jana Patel, EcoFusion's CTO, spoke first. "If we accept Fletcher's bid, our roadmap for affordable, community-owned solar could be sidelined by quarterly profit targets," she warned. Luis Morales, head of software, leaned forward. "We'd lose our autonomy. Our smart grid algorithms would be buried under the bank's bureaucracy." By contrast, CFO Tamika Jones highlighted the appeal of Fletcher's cash infusion. "We'd instantly eliminate our $50 million credit facility, widen our R&D budget, and accelerate expansion into Europe." Her spreadsheet showed how daily operations could smooth over growing pains with bank backing, but at the cost of strategic control. As rain drummed on the windows, Marcus laid out his vision. EcoFusion would instead issue convertible notes to acquire Fletcher's 200-person green finance arm, comprising their clean energy lending team and proprietary risk modeling software. Under his plan, EcoFusion would absorb the unit's clients and capital markets licenses, creating EcoFusion Capital, a vertically integrated platform offering hardware, installation, and tailored financing. Fletcher shareholders would receive a minority stake in the merged entity, and EcoFusion's board would retain decisional control. The room fell silent. Fletcher's bid was lucrative, safe, and conventional. Marcus's coup was bold, complex, and unorthodox. After 4 hours of debate, the board chair, venture partner Elena Ruiz, called the vote. 3 directors sided with Marcus's counterproposal, swayed by the promise of mission integrity and long-term upside. 2 preferred Fletcher's immediate windfall. By a narrow margin, EcoFusion committed to acquiring Fletcher's green finance division on its own terms. As Marcus left the boardroom, his phone buzzed with a curt note from Fletcher's CEO. "We accept your proposal. Send your term sheet by Friday." He allowed himself a private grin. The bankers who once shut him out would now hand him their own financial arm, proof that innovation and grit could rewrite the rules of high finance. Marcus Ellis arrived at Fletcher and Green's glass-walled atrium in EcoFusion's electric sedan, determination set in his eyes. Gone was the deference he had shown months before. Now he carried a lever forged from his startup's meteoric rise. Seated at the head of Fletcher's polished conference table, Marcus watched Victor Rutledge's polite smile falter as he laid out the new terms. "I appreciate your acquisition offer," Marcus began, voice calm, "but EcoFusion's mission demands control over our financing arm. Instead, we propose to acquire your green finance division outright." He slid a crisp term sheet across the table. "We'll issue $800 million in EcoFusion convertible notes and assume your clean energy loan portfolio. In return, Fletcher and Green will retain a 25% equity stake in the combined entity, EcoFusion Capital, while we maintain operational and voting control." Rutledge's eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting we sell the division we just pitched to buy you?" he asked, incredulous. Marcus nodded. "Yes. Your bankers deemed EcoFusion too risky. Yet here we stand as a unicorn. My team can integrate your lending experts and proprietary algorithms into our platform, delivering an end-to-end solution no bank could replicate." A hush fell as Fletcher's board members exchanged glances. Their CFO calculated margins. The head of corporate strategy tapped at a tablet. Jana Patel, seated beside Marcus, watched from the back of the room, confidence radiating. This was the moment their gamble paid off. Rutledge cleared his throat. Your proposal upends our entire plan, but I won't lie, it's brilliant. He turned to the other directors. Ecofusion values our green finance division at a premium, and they're offering us a seat at the table in a larger enterprise. I believe shareholders will back it. After tense minutes of deliberation, Fletcher's chairwoman spoke. We vote to accept Marcus Ellis's counter-proposal. The room erupted in subdued applause. Marcus allowed himself a satisfied smile as Fletcher's executives began parsing the details. He had not only rebuffed their buyout, but had gained the banker's own financing arm, fully under Ecofusion's control. That evening, Marcus returned to Ecofusion's HQ to announce the deal to his team. When he revealed the terms, $800 million in convertible notes, full control of Fletcher's 200-person green finance division, and a 25% stake for Fletcher, jubilant cheers filled the warehouse. Technicians raised victory high fives. Jana embraced him with proud tears. Luis began drafting integration plans in real time. In that moment, the startup once denied a humble loan stood poised to redefine clean energy finance and prove that the doors bankers slam can, with grit and vision, become the gateways to entirely new opportunities. 5 years after sealing the deal to acquire Fletcher & Green's green finance division, Marcus Ellis stood on the rooftop terrace of Ecofusion Capital headquarters, surveying a skyline bristling with solar arrays and wind turbines powered by his company's integrated hardware plus financing platform. Below him, the atrium garden bloomed with native pollinator plants irrigated by Ecofusion's energy-positive microgrid, an emblem of how far the startup had come from a cramped co-working loft and a humiliating bank refusal. Ecofusion Capital now serviced over 150,000 customers across 3 continents, offering turnkey solar plus storage installations with bespoke loan packages, underwritten by the very bankers who once denied Marcus a single loan. Their proprietary risk modeling engine, born from Fletcher's algorithms and Ecofusion's IoT data, enabled 98% approval rates for underserved households, slashing energy bills by an average 45%. Local community centers credited the program with lifting thousands out of energy poverty and spurring micro-entrepreneurship in rural regions. In the afternoon sunlight, Marcus joined Jana Patel and Luis Morales for the inaugural Impact Summit, where they announced the Ecofusion Foundation, a $100 million endowment dedicated to seeding next-generation clean tech innovators from disadvantaged backgrounds. 12 fellows, chosen from over 3,000 applicants in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, presented prototypes for off-grid desalination, perovskite photovoltaics, and waste-to-energy microreactors. Their eyes shone with the same spark that had driven Marcus to defy every no along his path. Later, Fletcher & Green's former headquarters rebranded under the Ecofusion banner as the Capital Innovation Campus, housing collaborative labs where bankers, engineers, and community advocates co-developed social financing tools like pay-as-you-save models and microinsurance for solar loans. At a ceremony unveiling the campus's solar canopy parking deck, Victor Rutledge, now a minority partner in Ecofusion Capital, took the stage. With genuine warmth, he toasted, "The founder who turned our initial refusal into the world's largest clean energy finance platform." As dusk painted the city in rose and gold, Marcus reflected on his journey. Denied a $500,000 loan, he had bootstrapped a prototype, won small grants, scaled to unicorn status, outmaneuvered his bankers, and redefined how clean energy gets funded. His private resolve had cascaded into global impact, transforming households, communities, and entire energy markets. That night, as the rooftop garden's LED biosensors dimmed to starlight mode, Marcus looked out at the glowing horizon of Ecofusion's first 100-megawatt solar farm. funded entirely by loans crafted on the very principles he had insisted upon. He allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. From a closed mahogany door to open access for millions, his story had come full circle, and the future of energy would never be the same.